If love had an airport, Amelia Hart was stuck at the baggage claim. That's how her day was going. Nothing in her 7 years as a flight attendant prepared her for Flight 927 to Miami, a full plane, a delayed boarding, a coffee spill on her shoes, and a screaming toddler who appeared, but none of that was the real problem. The real problem was in Seat 1A. The problem was 6'3", broad-shouldered, unfairly handsome, and staring at her like turbule. He had the kind of presence that did not belong on a commercial flight. Sharp jaw, dark hair. A skirt like he stepped straight out of a Wall Street. Fushi tried not to look again. She failed. Every time. Amelia passed first class. Those deep, unreadable eyes lingered on her. Not creepy. Not PR. Like he already knew her. On her third pass, he finally spoke. "Miss Hart," he said smoothly. Her stomach dropped. She never told him. "Her name, your badge," he added, nodding to her chest. Right, her badge. The one she forgot she was wearing because his voice sounded like warm whiskey. "Yes? How can I help you, sir?" she managed. He tilted his head slightly, amused. "Sir makes me feel older than I am." "And what would you prefer?" she asked. His lips curled into a slow, dangerous smirk. "My name," she blinked. "Which is?" He extended his boarding pass. "Dominic. Russo." Her heart stuttered. She knew that name. Everyone knew that name. He wasn't just rich. He wasn't just powerful. He was the rumored head of the Russo family. The man politicians pretended not to know. The man CEOs the underworld. This man was not supposed to be on her plane. "Is everything all right?" Dominic asked, watching her reaction closely. "Yes." She lied too quickly. His eyes warmed, amused again. "Relax, Amelia. I'm just a passenger today." She wasn't convinced, but she walked away, pretending she didn't feel his gaze on her spine. Takeoff was smooth until it wasn't. 30 minutes into the flight, they hit sudden turbulence. Passengers gasped, cups shook. Overhead, Amelia braced herself and stumbled forward as the plane lurched harder than expected. Hands shot out, strong, steady, commanding. Caught her by the waist. Her breath vanished. For a moment, the plane, the noise, the shaking, everything disappeared. "Careful," he murmured, his mouth near her ear. "Wouldn't want you getting hurt." She looked up at him. He didn't look scared. He didn't look bothered. He looked interested, too interested, and as the turbulence smoothed out, he didn't let go. Amelia swallowed. This flight was going to be a problem, a very big problem. Dominic Russo should have let go of her waist. Any normal passenger would have released her the second the turbulence stopped. But Dominic wasn't Norally handed her to him. When he finally loosened his grip, it wasn't because he wanted to. It was because someone was watching. "Miss Hart?" a voice called timidly. Amelia snapped out of her trance and stepped back, way too fast, way too flustered. An elderly woman in 1C was gripping her armrest like turbulence. "Saint, can I get a water?" the woman asked, wide-eyed. "Yes, of course," Amelia said, practically fleeing the scene. Behind her, Dominic chuckled under his breath, low, smooth, dangerous, back in the galley. Amelia slapped cold, water on her cheeks like it could freeze her embarrassment. She took a deep breath. Everything was fine. She was fine. She was a professional. Then she opened the water cabinet and nearly dropped the bottle. 2 men were walking down the aisle toward first class. Not passengers, not friendly, and not subtle. Broad shoulders, dark suits, earpieces, movements too, coordinated to belong on a commercial flight. Her stomach tightened. She stalked back, toward first class, acting casual. But when she reached row 1, she found exactly what the 2 suited men were standing beside. Dominic. No words. No greetings. Just the silent nod. Men like that only gave one person, their boss. Her throat dried. Dominic lifted a single eyebrow at her, almost amused at her realization. "You look like you've seen a ghost, Amelia," she swallowed. "Are they with you?" "They're with my family," he corrected calmly. His family, not parents, not cousins, family. The kind newspapers never printed but always whispered about. Amelia stepped back slightly, heart pounding. So the rumors are true. Dominic leaned back in his seat, perfectly relaxed, like they weren't discussing organized crime at Rumors, he said, tapping the armrest lightly, are usually exaggerated. That wasn't a no, she whispered. He smiled lazily. Wasn't meant to be. Before she could respond, the captain's voice crackled overhead, announcing clear skies ahead, clear skies. Maybe, but not for her. Amelia tried to retreat. To put distance between herself and the dangerously magnetic Mafia boss, but Amelia. She froze. His tone wasn't commanding. It wasn't demanding. It was soft. So soft she felt it in her chest. I don't want you to be afraid of me. She turned her head slightly, meeting his gaze. I'm not afraid. She lied. His smirk returned. Slow. Knowing, heart-stopping. You should be. Before she could respond, one of the suited men leaned in and murmured something in Dominic's ear. Dominic. His expression changed. Intensity, alertness. Quiet shift from charming to lethal. Amelia didn't know what he'd just been told. But she felt the temperature drop. Dominic stood, towering over the row. I need to check something, he said, adjusting his cuffs. Stay close to the front of the cabin. Is something wrong? She whispered. He gave her that same unreadable, dangerous look. The look of a man who had lived too many lives in tea there might be, he said quietly, and then he walked past her, disappearing down the aisle with the two men flanking him. His pulse thudded in her throat. She came into this shift thinking her biggest problem would be a crying baby and lukewarm coffee. Instead, there was a Mafia boss on her plane, a Mafia boss who knew her name, Mafia boss who had just walked toward the danger and left her wanting to follow him. The aisle felt too narrow. The lights felt too bright, and Amelia felt way too aware that Dominic Russo had just walked into coach like he owned the entire, and possibly the sky above it. She stood frozen, near the curtain dividing first class, torn between the instinct to stay, put like he a woman in a bad decision commercial. Her supervisor, Carla, brushed past her with a tight frown. Amelia, why do you look like you just saw your ex and your landlord at the same time? Amelia blinked. The turbulence? Carla gave her a look that said, You're a terrible liar, but before she could pry, the plane jolted again, just a tiny hop. Not enough to scare passengers. Carla rolled her eyes. Seriously? It's barely a bump, right? A bump. Just a normal plane bump. Nothing to do with the dangerous man with the sinful jawline walking toward whatever threat he'd send totally. Fine. She peeked past the curtain. Dominic and his two men were halfway, down the plane. Moving with the kind of synchronized purpose, though. Not because they recognized him. No. These were but people. Felt danger. Even when they couldn't name it. Amelia stepped out. One step, then another. Carla hissed, Where are you going? Passenger check, she lied. That's my area. Then, morale check? Carla groaned. 5 minutes. Then get back here. Amelia nodded and walked down the aisle, pretending to inspect overhead bins while totally spying. Halfway down, she caught up to Dominic. He didn't turn toward her. He didn't speak. He just felt her. I told you to stay in the front, he murmured without looking. And I told you I'm working, she whispered. He stopped walking, forcing her to stop beside him. Passengers barely noticed. A baby cried somewhere space between rows 14 and 15. The air thickened. Amelia, Dominic said quietly, I can't protect you if you don't listen. Her heart tripped over itself. I didn't ask you to protect me. His eyes finally met hers. Slow, steady, burning. No, he said softly. You didn't, but I am. She felt her throat tighten. Before she could answer, one of his men subtly cleared his throat. Code, for we found something. Dominic turned toward him. The man whispered something too low for Amelia to hear, but Dominic's jaw flexed. He exhaled slowly. Row 22. A man with a gray hoodie. No carry-on, paid cash. Changed his ticket twi. Amelia's stomach dropped. That could just be... No, Dominic said, voice dropping an octave. That's not nothing. His men continued ahead, but Dominic stayed close to her, lowering his head until his lips were near. Go back to first class. Right now. His voice wasn't harsh. It wasn't angry. It was protective, commanding, magnetic. In a way that made her knees feel unreliable. She took a shaky breath. Dominic, this is my job. I can't just run away because you're telling me. A humorless smile tugged at his mouth. You have no idea how stubborn you are, do you? The overhead lights flickered for half a second, barely noticeable. But Dominic noticed. His grip Jen Amelia, he said, his tone a low warning. This flight isn't as safe as you think. Her pulse hammered. Before she could respond, a passenger gasped. Tray fell, someone shouted. Dominic tightened his grip, and then the entire cabin collectively froze as the man in the gray hoodie stood up. The man in the gray hoodie stood slowly, too slowly, not like someone stretching after a long flight, not like someone grabbing a bag from the overhead bin. No, he stood like a man waiting for the exact second to move. Dominic saw it. Amelia felt it. Ripple of tension moved through the aisle, passengers sensing danger even if they didn't understand Dominic. His fingers tightened around her wrist, firm, steady, protective. Stay behind me, he murmured, and for the first time since she'd met him. She didn't argue. Amelia stepped back as Dominic moved forward with lethal calm. Not loud, not aggressive, just a please sit down and shut up, 22. The man in the hoodie kept his head lowered, right hand buried suspiciously inside his front. Excuse me, sir, Dominic said, voice deceptively polite. You dropped something. The hooded man didn't look up. He adjusted his stance instead, feet apart, body angled. Dominic shifted too, subtle but decisive. Blocking Amelia entirely with his body, sir, Amelia said, her voice shaking despite her best attempt to sound professional. Please take you. The man finally raised his head. Eyes, unblinking, laser-focused on the cockpit door, Dominic murmured without turning. Amelia, go! She didn't move. Go, he repeated, softer, almost pleading. She shook her head once. Not leaving. Dominic's jaw tightened, but he said nothing, because the man finally spoke, and his voice was wrong, too. Calm, too controlled. Need access to the front of the plane. Passengers gasped. Someone whispered, "Oh God." Dominic didn't blink. That's not happening. The man reached deeper into his hoodie pocket. Amelia's heart lurched, but Dominic moved first. Not violently, not recklessly. He just stepped. Closer, slow, deliberate, like he was trying not to spook a wild animal. Hands where I can see them, Dominic said softly. Let's not make this a problem. The man's lips twitched. You think you can stop me? Dominic's smile didn't reach his eyes. Oh, I don't think, he murmured. I know. For a split second, a breath, a heartbeat, the cabin held perfectly still. Then the plane hit another, mild bump. Just a tiny one, but enough for chaos to choose its moment. The man jerked his hand upward. Amelia screamed. But there was no weapon, just an empty hand, empty, but shaking. Dominic caught the wrist midair, gripping it with inhuman speed. Passengers shrieked. Someone dropped a phone. A toddler started crying. Let go of me, the man yelled. Dominic twisted the man's arm behind him and shoved him into the seat, controlled. Efficient, not relax, Dominic muttered, pinning him down with one hand. You made the whole plane think you were... I wasn't. I swear I didn't. The man crumbled into a panic attack, breathing fast, clutching his hoodie with the free hand. Dominic released him slowly, watching him with sharp suspicion. Amelia stepped closer. You okay? She asked softly. The hooded man looked embarrassed, sweating. I get panic attacks. Turbulence. I just needed to ST. Dominic didn't buy that story for a second, but he let the man be, stepping back with a gaze that promised, I'll be watching you. He turned to Amelia. You see why I wanted you in front? He whispered. She exhaled shakily. Okay, she admitted. Maybe you were right. Maybe? He repeated with a slow smirk. Amelia glared at him, but her heartbeat hadn't slowed since he touched her. Dominic leaned a fraction closer, voice low enough only she could hear. Come on, he murmured. We need to talk privately. Where? He looked toward the front of the plane. The galley, he said. And before you argue, yes. This time I'm pulling you. Her pulse jumped. And when he took her hand, not her wrist, not her arm, but her hand, she didn't pull away. She followed, straight into the most dangerous conversation of her life. The front galley was barely bigger than a walk-in closet, lit by a single overhead panel and stocked coffee pots. Normally, it smelled like reheated me right now. It smelled like danger. because Dominic Russo was standing inside it, and he'd just pulled her in with him. Amelia's back brushed. The metal counter. Dominic stood inches away, blocking the exit with his broad just. There. Too close, too warm, too everything. You can't keep dragging me around the plane, she whispered, breath uneven. I'm not dragging you, he said quietly. I'm keeping you safe. She crossed her arms, trying to hide how he affected her. That guy back there wasn't a threat. He wasn't today, Dominic corrected. But you don't know what danger looks like. I do. She hated that his voice made her feel both infuriated and protected. And what about you? She shot back. Your danger. He smiled slowly, dangerously. Not to you. Her pulse jumped. Very unhelpful body, Dominic. Leaned against the opposite counter, arms crossed over his powerful chest, watching her with raining orders. About Amelia. He said softly, you need to listen to me. There's something happening on this flight. Her breath caught. Something what? I'm not sure yet, he admitted. But my men picked up signals before we boarded. Movement. Communic rerouting? She repeated. Like the plane? He shook his head. Like people. Criminal people. Amelia's stomach dropped. So you think someone dangerous is on board? Dominic tilted his head slightly. Someone besides me? She glared at him. He smirked. Because of course. He did. But the smirk faded as he stepped closer, lowering his voice. This isn't a normal flight, he said. And you being anywhere near the danger is unacceptable. Unacceptable? She repeated, bristling. Dominic, this is my job. I don't care. Her breath hitched. Dominic planted a hand on the counter near her hip, not touching her, but close enough to set every on. You think I'm here by coincidence? He murmured. She blinked. Aren't you? No. That single word cracked the air. Amelia swallowed. Then why are you here? He hesitated. For the first time since she met him, he actually hesitated. I can't tell you everything, he said slowly. Not yet, but I had to be on this flight. And once he stopped. Her heart thudded hard. Once you saw me, what? He exhaled sharply, like he hated admitting anything. I knew I'd be distracted. Amelia's breath caught in her throat. Dominic wasn't a man who admitted weakness. Not in public, not in private, not ever. You don't even know me, she whispered. His eyes traced her face, slow, reverent, devastating. I know more than you think. Her pulse stumbled. And I can't let anything happen to you, he added, voice deepening. You don't get to decide that, she whispered. Dominic stepped closer. So close she felt his breath on her lips. I already have. For a moment, she swore the plane wasn't flying. It was spinning. Then, bang, a tray fell behind them. They jerked apart. Carla's voice echoed from the aisle. Amelia, everything okay up there? Amelia swallowed hard, forcing her voice steady. Yes. Dominic met her gaze, dark, burning. Determined, this isn't over, he murmured. And as she stepped out of the galley, heart pounding, she knew one truth with absolute clarity. Whatever was coming next would be bigger than turbulence. The cabin felt different when Amelia stepped back into it. Charged electrics, like the air itself was holding its breath. Dominic followed behind her. Not touching her, not speaking, yet somehow commanding every inch of space around them. Passengers couldn't name. Carla appeared out of nowhere, hands on hips. Amelia, where have you been? People want snacks. Sorry, Amelia said quickly. Just handling a situation. Dominic finished smoothly, stepping beside her. Close. Too close. Carla blinked at him, starstruck. Sir, can I get you anything? Dominic's gaze didn't leave Amelia. No, I already have everything I need. Carla turned pink and scurried away. Amelia wanted to sink through the floor. Stop doing that, she hissed under her breath. Doing what? Dominic asked, pretending innocence. Talking like we're connected? He offered quietly. Her pulse spiked. No, he smiled slowly. Lying doesn't suit you. She opened her mouth to argue, but the universe had other plans. The plane lurched, hard. Not the playful turbulence from before. Not the gentle shaking passengers. Shrug off. This was the kind that made drinks spill. Overhead bins rattle. and people gripped their armrests like gasps rippled through the cabin. Amelia instinctively reached for the nearest wall, but missed. She stumbled forward, straight into Dominic's chest. He caught her instantly, strong arms locking around her waist, steadying her like the plane wasn't got you, he murmured against her ear. Her breath hitched. His hands were warm. His grip was firm, and the world outside that moment ceased to exist. The plane dipped again. Passenger screamed. Amelia's fingers clutched Dominic's suit jacket. She wasn't scared of the turbulence. She was scared of how right it felt being held by him. "It's okay," he said softly. "I've got you." Another jolt, and then it happened fast. Too fast to think, too fast to breathe. The turbulence threw her slightly off balance. Dominic tightened his hold. She lifted her head, and Dominic Rousseau, the most dangerous man she'd ever met, kissed her. It wasn't soft, it wasn't polite. It was instinct, heat, possession, claiming like he'd been waiting hours, no, years, for the moment her lips touched his. Amelia's breath left her lungs. Passengers gasped. Someone dropped a soda. Someone whispered, "Oh my God, are they filming this?" Phones rose, camera shutters clicked, but Dominic didn't care. Not even a little. His hand slid to the back of her neck, pulling her closer as the plane steadied beneath them. His more dainty, when he finally pulled back. Just an inch, his forehead rested. Against hers. "You okay?" he whispered. Amelia couldn't speak. She wasn't sure she remembered. How? Dominic stroked her cheek with his thumb, voice low and rough. "I told you I'd keep you safe." Her heart thundered against her ribs, breath catching in her throat. "That," she whispered, "was not safety." His lips curved into a sinful, knowing smirk. "No," he murmured. "It wasn't." Passengers stared openly. Carla's jaw hung open. A guy 2 rows back whispered, "Dude." That was like Amelia stepped back from Dominic, face burning, heart racing, mind spinning. "What is wrong with you?" she hissed, trying to look composed. Dominic didn't flinch, didn't apologize, didn't even pretend to feel regret. Instead, he leaned in just enough that only she could hear him. "You were falling," he said softly. "I caught you, and I took what I wanted." Her knees weakened. "This changes everything," she whispered. Dominic's eyes darkened. "Good." The plane's intercom crackled. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're preparing for an emergency landing at Fort Lauderdale due to mechanical passengers." Panicked quietly, murmuring prayers and glancing nervously at the overhead bins. Amelia's cart, her mind still reeling from the kiss. Dominic didn't panic. He never did. He simply stepped closer, his presence eclipsing the chaos, his dark eyes scanning the cabin like a Amelia. He murmured, voice low, brushing against her ear. "Stay close to me." I can handle this," she whispered, trying to regain some control. "No," he interrupted, soft but firm. "You will stay close." Passengers were scrambling, trying to buckle themselves in, while Dominic's men subtly moved through. Amelia realized with a jolt, they weren't just passengers. They were guardians. Dominic grabbed her hand before she could protest, guiding her toward first class. "Sit, buckle." Stashi obeyed, heart hammering, adrenaline roaring through her veins. She tried to focus on her train, and her eyes kept flicking toward him. He wasn't tense, and then it happened. A commotion in the aisle behind them. Someone screaming, someone panicking. Dominic reacted instantly. He moved like liquid, wrapping an arm around a nervous passenger to Stedman, circling the troublemaker as if it were Einstein flight attendants. "Brace yourselves." The captain's voice came over the intercom. Tense. Amelia's knees threatened to buckle, but Dominic's grip on her hand was grounding. He leaned closer. She could feel his breath against her hair. Warm, steadying, maddening. Every instinct screamed at H, but she couldn't. She didn't want to. The plane's descent was rough, rocking, rattling, the engines roaring like angry beasts. But Dominic did the noise. "You're safe. I promise." Amelia's heart threatened to stop entirely. "How can you promise that?" She gasped. He smiled. "Dangerous, magnetic. Because I'll die before letting anyone hurt you." Her pulse skyrocketed, a mixture of fear, admiration, and something she hadn't named yet. His intense finally. The plane's wheels hit the runway with a jolt that rattled every bone in the cabin. Passing. Amelia exhaled shakily. Letting herself relax, Dominic released her hand. But not entirely. His fingers lingered for a heartbeat, brushing hers. "She you okay?" he asked softly, voice low enough that only she could hear. "I think so," she whispered. He tilted his head, dark eyes boring into hers. "I'm going to make sure you stay that way." No, except before she could respond, his men moved past, clearing the way. Amelia realized the truth. Nothing, not the flight, not Dominic, Russo, not herself, and as passengers began to disembark, taking shaky steps into the chaos of the emergency landing. Dominic wasn't just a passenger on this plane. He was her storm, her danger, her obsession, and she wasn't sure if she wanted to survive it or surrender to it. The limo was black, stretched, impossibly long, and smelled faintly of leather, cedar and something, danger. Dominic held the door open for Amelia like a gentleman, but the heat radiating from him was "after you," he murmured, voice low, intoxicating. Amelia slid in, heart still racing from the flight and the kiss that had the entire plane brembled slightly as she settled onto the leather. As Dominic slid in beside her, close enough that the leather separated them by inches. He didn't touch as a reminder that he could if he wanted to. "You're quiet," he said, voice teasing, calm. "Dangerous. I'm processing," she replied. "Flight. Emergency. The kiss." He chuckled softly, low and seductive. "Ah, the kiss. I see it disturbed you." "Disturbed isn't the word," she muttered, avoiding his eyes. "You're lying," he said, eyes darkening just enough to make her pulse spike. "Your heart tells me die." Amelia swallowed. He was right. Of course he was right. How could she possibly hide anything from Dorogation? A magnetic pull she couldn't resist. The city blurred past the limo window, Miami lights flickering like distant stars. But all Amelia Codgerus' eyes, every inch of him screamed power. "Dan, you realize," he murmured, leaning slightly toward her, "that I don't do casual. I don't do normal." Her stomach flipped. "Dominic, this is insane." He smiled slowly. "Maybe, but you're already caught in it." The limo slowed as they arrived at a massive mansion. Gated, imposing, with black stone walls and dightly, she had seen luxury before. This was a Fortran side. The foyer was breathtaking. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, velvet curtains, and a faint hallways like he'd walked them 1,000 times. "Ethel, you must be exhausted," he said softly, stopping near a window with a view of the ocean. "You need." Amelia blinked, heat rising. "Me? What does that mean?" He smirked, dangerous and playful. "You'll see. But for now, relax. Be comfortable. Try not to die," she laughed nervously, though it sounded brittle even to her own ears. Dominic watched, unblinking, ring the effect he had on her. "You've got to understand," he murmured, stepping closer. "The plane? That was just the beginning. And it's complicated, dangerous, dark, and yet..." Amelia's breath caught. His words were a promise, a warning, a confession all at once. She wanted to step back. She wanted to resist. She wanted to run, but she didn't. She was already inside. His world, already. Too far gone. And Dominic? He knew it. His gaze lingered, heavy, charged, and as he reached a hand out, not touching, just hovering near Herp in her chest. Whatever this was, it wasn't going to end soon, and neither of them wanted it to. Dominic leaned against the grand staircase railing, watching Amelia like a hawk. Not in a threatening, not yet, but in a way that made her feel like every thought she had was visible to him. "You need to stay here," he said, voice low, deliberate. "Impossible to ignore. I'm not your prisoner." She shot back, arms crossed. "Heart racing. You're not," he said smoothly. "Think of it as protection." Amelia's eyes narrowed. "Protection or control." He smirked, that dangerous curve of his lips that made her pulse stutter. "Semantics. But yes, I can if you let me." "I don't need a bodyguard," she snapped. "I've survived planes, passengers, emergencies, and you've done it impressively," he admitted. "But you didn't survive me." She blinked. "Excuse me?" Dominic's smoldering gaze locked onto hers. "I told you, Amelia. You're not safe. Not on planes, not here. Not ever. So you stay." "That's the contract?" she repeated. Incredulous. "Yes. Verbal, implied, protective, and don't even think about leaving. Amelia exhaled sharply, trying to calm her racing thoughts. This is insane. You can't just— I already did, Dominic interrupted, voice softening slightly. Because I care. And because you're at ignore. Her cheeks burned. Infuriating? She whispered, partly offended. Partly aware that he might be right. Yes, he said, stepping closer. And yes, I want you here. With me, safe. Not because I can't have Amelia's mind spun. His words were protective, possessive, intoxicating. Every fiber of her body wants madness, and yet, she couldn't. You make everything sound like it's about me, she whispered. Because it is, he said bluntly. You're the only thing that matters right now. Forget the mansion and me. She wanted to step back. She wanted to argue, to push him away. But every movement felt heavy. Slug Dominic reached out, hand hovering near hers, fingers brushing slightly. This isn't a suggestion, Amtu. Her heart thudded against her ribs. And what if I refuse? He smirked darkly. Then I make you want to stay. I make you see that leaving isn't safe. That I'm to you fear. That I— He paused, voice dropping low. Amelia swallowed. She wanted to laugh, to scoff. To resist with every ounce of dignity she could muss. Fine. She muttered almost inaudibly. I'll stay. Dominic's smirk deepened. Smart girl. And yet, even as she nodded, her chest heaving, her mind screamed. This isn't normal. He isn't Norma. Dominic leaned in. Just enough that the faint scent of cedar and something dangerous and addictive. You settled. And make sure you survive the night. Amelia's pulse skyrocketed. He wasn't joking. Not even a little. And as she followed him deeper into the mansion, she realized that the contract wasn't just about Prit. Was about surrender. Her surrender. To him, to this world, to the storm that was. Dominic Russo. And she wasn't sure if she wanted to fight it or give in entirely. A crack of thunder rumbled across the coastline, just as Dominic pushed open a heavy wooden door. The room wasn't a bedroom, not technically, but it felt like one. Soft candlelight flickered across polished floors. Sheer curtains billowed with the storm. Wincy PK's lounge sat near the fireplace. Embers glowy, and somewhere behind it all, the ocean roared. Amelia blinked in awe. What is this room? Dominic didn't look at her. Not yet. He stood beside the balcony doors, watching the lightning paint. It's where I think, he answered quietly. Where I make decisions. His voice dropped. And tonight, Amelia, you're my only decision. Her breath hitched. Dominic finally turned, and the way he looked at her made the candles seem dim. His eyes were darker, hungrier, softened by your shaking, he said softly. It's cold, she lied. It's you, he murmured. He stepped toward her slowly, each footstep echoing through the quiet room. Amelia felt the air char. I told myself I'd give you time, he whispered. That I'd let you breathe, let you settle. He stopped in front of her, close enough that she felt the warmth of his breath. But the truth? His voice was barely a growl. I haven't been able to think of anything except the— Amelia's heart hammered, so loud she was certain he could hear it. Dominic raised a hand, but didn't touch her, just hovered above her cheek. I want to kiss you again, he said, but this time it wouldn't be because of fear or adrenaline. Her throat tightened. Dominic, it would be because I want to, he finished. The wind slammed the balcony door open wider, sending curtains swirling like ghosts. The storm's end didn't flinch. His attention was fixed entirely. You keep looking at the door, he said, thinking about escape. No, she whispered. Yes, he corrected gently. You're afraid of me, she swallowed. Should I be? Dominic leaned closer. So close their foreheads nearly touched. You should be afraid of what you make me feel, he murmured. Because I don't lose control. Ever. Except with you. Everything inside Amelia twisted, pulled, ached. She wanted to step away, but she stepped. Closer, Dominic's lips parted slightly. But he didn't kiss her. Instead, he traced a finger, slowly, reverently, down her arm. Goosebumps tremored instantly. See? He whispered. You feel this too. A crack of thunder lit the entire room, revealing his expression, raw, unguarded. Aching. Don't run from this, Amelia, he whispered. Don't run from me. She lifted her gaze, finally meeting his fully unfiltered. Unprotected. I'm not running, she breathed. I'm overwhelmed. Dominic exhaled slowly. a sound that was half relief, half hunger. "Good," he murmured, then let the storm pass. "Sit with me, talk with me. Let me understand you." She blinked. "Talk?" He smiled faintly. "If I touch you right now, I won't stop, and you're not ready for that." Her knees nearly buckled. Dominic noticed. He offered his hand. Steady, strong, patient. "Come sit by the fire," he murmured. "Let me unravel you slowly." Amelia placed her hand in his, and the world outside the mansion roared, while inside, something even more dangerous began. The mansion was quiet now. Save for the crackling fire and the storm's distant howl, Amelia sat on there, his gaze unrelenting. The candlelight danced. "You're still thinking about the plane," he said softly, leaning forward. His elbows rested on his Kenzity. She hesitated. "I can't stop thinking about it. About you, about the way you handled everything." He tilted his head, studying her. "I handled it because you were there. Because I had to, and because her chest tightened. Dominic, you don't even know me. You barely know me." "I know enough," he said firmly. "Enough to know I can't let you walk into danger alone. Not on a plane." Amelia swallowed, feeling both heat and fear. "You're impossible," she whispered. "I don't even know why you care," he finished, voice dropping an octave. "I know." Her breath caught. His words carried weight, ownership, desire, protection. It made her pulse. Stuta Dominic leaned back, eyes narrowing thoughtfully. "You think this is a game?" "That I'm just some dang it kind of is," she admitted. Cheeks warming. "Kind of isn't enough," he murmured. "I'm not a game, Amelia, and you're not someone I can ignore." Her heart raced. "Dominic." He stood abruptly, walking to the window. Lightning illuminated the city below. His reflection stare when he turned. She saw something different. "Volan, I made a promise on that plane," he said, voice low, intimate. "A promise to keep you safe. And I would trust your attention, your presence." She looked down at her hands, tangled in the soft fabric of her dress. "I don't know if I can give." "You can try," he said, stepping closer, close enough to make her pulse leap. "And I'll be patient. You're near danger, I will act, without question." Her pulse was wild. Every nerve ending sang with awareness of him. "You're terrifying." She whispered. "I'm terrifying because I care," he replied. "Because I've been in a world where people don't survive." Amelia lifted her gaze, meeting his eyes fully. Something in them, unspoken burning, made her stomach known. "Exactly," he murmured, closing the distance slowly. "And you will learn that with me, life isn't about fire. And I can promise you one thing," when her breath caught. She wanted to step back, wanted to resist, wanted to argue that she wasn't ready. In sync with his, Dominic lowered his voice further. "I'm not just your protector, Amelia. I'm yours. If you'll let me." She felt the truth settle deep in her chest. She wanted that. She wanted him. Not just his protectio. For a long moment, the room held still, charged with the tension of unspoken confessions and unclaim. "I don't know if I can do this," she whispered. "You don't have to know," Dominic murmured, stepping close, so close she could feel the heat of him. "Are already mine in ways you don't even realize." Her heartbeat thundered, his gaze pierced her. And in the quiet storm of the mansion, Amelia realized one thing with absolute clarity. She was falling, and Dominic Rousseau had already caught her. Morning light seeped through the tall mansion windows, soft and golden, but Amelia didn't feel warmth. Her stomach twisted with nerves. The night had ended on a cliff. Edge Dominic had left her with promises of protection. But promises were dangerous things. She stepped through the hallway, quietly, hearing distant voices. Two men, low and sharp, arguing by a closed office door. "She's a weakness." "A liability," one voice snapped. Amelia froze. "She is not a weakness," Dominic growled back, voice icy, lethal. "She's under my protection." "You're losing focus," the other man hissed. The cartel saw her face on the plane. If they connect, Amelia's heart plummeted. The cartel? Because of her? She backed away before she heard Dominic's response. She didn't need to. The truth was enough. She wasn't safe here. She wasn't safe with him. And she wasn't going to drag him down with her. Her breath shattered into small, frantic gasps as she hurried down the hallway, the mansion sudden layers of how deeply she'd already stepped into his. "Oh, I shouldn't be here. Never belonged here. Dominic deserves someone. Who isn't a ticking bomb? She grabbed her jacket from the foyer. Her hands shook violently. Just then, Dominic appeared at the top of the stairs. Amelia? His voice was soft, confused, concern sliced, through every syllable. She forced a thin smile. Dominic, I think I need some air. He studied her with those dark, perceptive eyes, the eyes that always saw too much, too deeply. You're lying, he said quietly. She froze. Dominic descended the stairs slowly, each step measured, like he was approaching a frightened animal. Nothing, she breathed. He stopped. His jaw tightened. Amelia. Her voice cracked. Dominic, I shouldn't be here. I'm causing problems. I'm making you vulnerable, and you think leaving will fix that? His voice was sharp, pained. You think walking out will make her throat tightened? Yes. Dominic's expression shifted. Hurt flickered across his face, masked quickly with anger. You don't guy heard them, she whispered. The cartel saw me. They know who I am. I'm not worth the trouble, they don't. His voice cracked like thunder. Amelia flinched. You don't get to call yourself just anything, he growled, stepping toward her. You're the only acted personally. The only one who... He stopped, breathing hard, but she'd already made up her mind. Can't be the reason you get hurt, she whispered. He stared at her, raw, betrayed, furious, terrified all at once. Amelia, don't walk out that door. She swallowed. I have to. Dominic's jaw clenched. His voice dropped to a whisper, rough and broken. If you walk away from me now, I don't know if I'll be able to let you go. Thunder cracked outside. Shaking the glass, she stepped back. Another step. Another. Goodbye. Dominic. The door clicked shut. Inside the mansion, Dominic stood, frozen, breathing hard hands, fisted at his sides. And for the first time in years, the Mafia boss felt something he didn't know how to fight. He was losing her, and the world suddenly felt dangerous in a whole new way. Dominic. Russo slammed the door behind Amelia, but the sound barely registered. His entire being vibrant she had left, and the mansion, his world, felt whole. He strode down the marble hallways like a storm incarnate, dark eyes scanning every corner, every shh, sensing the tempest brewing in him. She left. He growled under his breath. She can't just leave. He clenched his fists, knuckles white, jaw tight. Every second she was out there was a second closer, retaining her, stealing her. He moved to the surveillance room, screens, lighting the dark walls with images from the estate's cameras. His men were already alert. Find her, he barked, voice cold and lethal. Now. Yes, boss, one man replied. Already typing furiously, Dominic didn't sit. Didn't wait. He stalked to the balcony overlooking the darkened city. The storm ashed, bright, jagged, illuminating his sharp feature. She thinks she can protect me by leaving, he muttered. She doesn't understand. She is my weakness, touch her. His men returned breathless, with updates from local authorities and street-level cameras, Amelia's heading downtown. Dominic didn't wait. He moved to the garage. Sleek black sports cars lined up like soldiers. He chose door, leather seat cold under him. Engine roaring, get us there, he barked. The driver obeyed immediately. Dominic's focus narrowed. Nothing else existed except finding Amelia. His mind replayed the moment she left. Her soft voice, the broken whisper of goodbye, the way she reffed like a knife. He pressed the accelerator, the engine growling beneath him. Streets blurred into streaks of neon. Anaminic moved through it with precision. Dangerous. She's mine, he muttered fiercely. Not because I want her. Not because I need her. Because I want her to hurt herself thinking she's protecting me. The rain hit the windshield in sheets. Lightning split the sky above. The storm mirrored his fury, power, and obsession as the city whipped past him. Hours could have passed, or minutes. He didn't care. His only goal was clear: find her. Bring her back. And as the limo sped toward downtown, Dominic's dark, magnetic aura seemed to thrum with deadly into Amelia. Thought she could escape him. But Dominic Russo didn't lose. Not to chance. Not to fear. Not to anyone. And tonight, he would make sure she knew it. Amelia's heels clicked sharply against the wet pavement as she hurried down the dimly lit street. Ran, but she didn't care. All she could think about. But the sound of an engine, low, throaty, impossibly precise, made her pause. Her stomach twisted. She knew that engine. She knew before she could turn he was there, standing beside her, hands in his pockets. "Hair damp, suit clean, Amelia," he said softly. Not a question, not a greeting. "A claim, I need space," she stammered, backing up. "You don't get to need space from me," he said firmly, stepping closer. "Rain-slicked streets blurred without letting me protect you." "I'm not yours," she shot back, heart racing. "I can't be. You don't understand. I understand more than you think," he interrupted, his voice dropping low, dangerous. "I understand are terrified. Because you think by leaving, you her breath caught." The words hit harder than any storm, more consuming than the rain soaking them bow. "I don't know if I can," she whispered. "You can," he said, voice nearly a growl. "Because you already do. Every look, every step, every refuse to admit it." She stumbled back slightly. Rain dripped from his hair onto her cheek, and yet the warmth radiating Dominic closed the distance between them, not fast, not violently, but with absolute certainty. His ounding her, igniting her, claiming her. "You think walking away changes anything?" he murmured. "It doesn't. You're too much a part of me, Futh," her pulse thundered. "And if I can't? If I fail? You won't," he said softly, leaning closer, forehead nearly touching hers. "Because I'll stop you. Taying, with me, is the only way you survive yours." Her hands trembled as he finally cupped her face, fingers gentle yet commanding. The rain fell around intensity and undeniable connection. Dominic's lips found hers. Not a tentative brush, not a polite kiss. This was fire and storm and obscene. The plane vanished in one searing moment of clay. Amelia melted into him, instinctively breathing hitching, body pressed close. His hands roamed her world collapse. When they finally broke apart, rain dripping from their hair and clothes, Dominic whispered against, "You're mine. And no storm, no fear, no mistake will ever change that. Understand?" Her chest heaved, heart racing, mind spinning. I understand," she breathed. A fierce, dark smile curved his lips. "Good, because I don't negotiate on this, ever." And in the glow of the streetlights, amidst the pounding rain, Amelia realized the chaos, the danger grew so, and she didn't want to escape it anymore.